Hello! It's been so long, hasn't it, since we last did Boss Club. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to be talking to Yolanda Copes Stepney. This is a rescheduled Boss Club. Because last time I was having a bit of a bad day. I had a mental health day. So I had to cancel before, but Yolanda's been amazing and very understanding. So I'm very excited to talk to her again. As always, all of the Boss Clubs are available on my IGTV, and I've also uploaded them to YouTube as well, so they come with subtitles. So I think Yolanda has joined. So let's see. Let's have a chat. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Ha- Good. How are
I'm
you?
good, thank you. I'm good. You are
Thanks for.
looking so foxy today.
Well, I was really into myself earlier, and then as the day has worn on and my makeup has worn off, and I've like scratched my face, I'm a bit more like normal. But I'm enjoying these new earrings that
They're
I've
really
got
nice. I love them.
because I did a post this morning that was like, "I am gorgeous." I took like a photo, and I felt really good about myself.
Which is the
You
way we
also
should
look
all start the
gorgeous.
day. How we should all start the
Yeah.
day is just looking at ourselves and thinking we look gorgeous.
Definitely. So I've invited you on the Boss Club. Thanks for joining. Because as I always say, I invite people on who I think are bossing it. And I think you're one of those people. So what does bossing it or being a boss mean to you?
That is a really good question. I think it just means, you know what, just being fearless as you can be, because I appreciate there are legitimate reasons for fears, but just trying things out and being experimental. That's what I think it means. Stepping into the unknown and just seeing what happens.
That's amazing because I definitely don't think I'm fearless. I think I have a lot of fear and I
Really?
have anxiety as
Yeah.
well. So I'm like, sometimes I'm just like, no, I just want to hide in my house. Um, what do you think? Do you think you're fearless, and do you think that's something you've learned, or is it part
Um,
of your personality?
you know what? It's very much part of my personality. My parents really brought me up just to not be afraid of things. It's like I'm black. I have enough to be afraid of. So everything else is like they're like, don't be scared of other things. There are always worse things that can happen, but you don't know it. You don't know if you don't try, essentially. So they always brought me up to just not be too afraid, because they were like, well, if you try something and it doesn't work, you've tried it at least. The fear is in not doing it, not in the failure. And you know, there isn't really, I feel, such a thing as failure, and every mistake is a new creation. All you've done is try. And I think that's why they brought me up like that, and that's kind of how it's gone, really, which has been cool.
I love that because I think if there was an area that I wasn't scared in, it would be trying new things. I
Yeah,
think and that's what I kind of really enjoy.
yeah.
Um, and I like that you said there are no failures. So, what are there any things that have happened in your life and your career that might on the surface seem like a failure, but that you've managed to learn from?
Literally everything. There is literally everything.
Sure.
Yeah, like every time I've planned something and it hasn't gone right, or the correct amount of people haven't turned up. I've worked in events and stuff for a long time, so I've held events where there is no one in the room, and things like that. So many things have happened, but again, like that, I'm just not scared of it going wrong. If something doesn't happen, people don't turn up, it's all right. I've just learned for the next time, and I've kind of learned not to internalize it too much and beat myself up for it, like about it. Sorry, you just have to get on with it. But yeah, I was actually, so the beginning of 2020, I was actually selling one of my companies, but coronavirus ended that deal. And it was like a life-changing deal. It was like, okay, I was going to be able to buy my flat in cash. I was going to have a good amount of money in the bank account, and I was going to go traveling. So, and like start to bring
Whoa.
my other like I've got an event, Festival of Confidence, and speak on. So I was going to start taking Festival of Confidence global, and none of that's happened. And it could be considered some sort of failure, but it's not, because it's allowed me to change a lot of things. work out what I actually used to like about my company, because I was getting rid of it because I kind of hated it. And then it's kind of brought me back to loving bits of it again and just changing my life. I think I give myself one day to be annoyed or upset about something. Like, I've got one day. We don't have enough time to waste. Life's too short to be sitting down crying about it for days on end. And one day I felt shit, and then I was like, sorry, am I supposed to, am I allowed to swear?
Sure. I think my followers are used to it, so it's fine.
But yeah, I had one day I felt shit, and then I was like, tomorrow I'm going to wake up though, and it's not going to be shit anymore, because I always look for the micro goals and look for the victories in it. And the victory of that is, I started a company with $11.99 for a URL, and I was selling it for 6 figures. There is no failure in this. Like, no, I have not got that money, but the fact that it ended up being worth that means I can always do it again.
That's so amazing, because I think a lot of people would have freaked out when that happened, when like a life-changing deal like that, you know, ended because of something so completely out of your control. How did that feel, and how did you get through that? Because you say you only give yourself a day, but surely that affected you for more than a day.
Do you know what? I gave myself like a full day to me into it, because I was like, I realized that as everything was starting to change, I was like, the reality started dawning on me sooner, like quicker than when I had that conversation with them. And I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen here. I know what, like, I could tell the temperature, as it were. And I was like, this is so disappointing, because I had got to the point where I just, like I said, I'd had enough of running my company. I just had enough of all of it. I started off with, I started a company for really specific reasons. Like, I like working for myself. I had an idea, and I wanted to have more freedom. And I'm not frightened to try things. And it went really well. And then it got super big really, really quickly. And then it started off like the most pivotal, craziest time of my life, where I had, as you know, like 2 years where everyone died, and it was just mental. So selling the company, I'd had been sucked through this crazy emotional arc of like 9 people passing away in a really short period of time, my long-term relationship ending, like literally having crazy grief and everything from that. So it kind of got me to this place where I'm not numb or anything. I just don't, that the worst has really happened, and it's all right now. So that's why I was kind of okay with it, because I was like, you know what, some crazier shit's happened to me, and I was fine. So this too shall pass. And that's how I was able to get through it, just like perspective based on my own experiences. And it was a bummer, because getting rid of the company was also kind of closing this really specific chapter in my life. But then when the world stopped, the good thing was it forced me to stop. And then I had to think about it, and I had to think about my emotional attachment to it and everything. So that's why I was able to kind of process it literally like in a day. And then the next day I was like, well, I've got to sort my life out because coronavirus. And then that distracted me enough, to be honest. So, yeah.
Wow. So someone's agreed in the comments about failures. They've said there's no failures, there's only adjustments.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, just do it. It's course correction, isn't it?
And I think it's really interesting what you said about worse stuff has happened, because I think sometimes it does take those like big catalysts in your life to put things into perspective. And like 9 people dying, I can't imagine. I'm so sorry that I can't imagine what that was like. But when my dad died, that was a big catalyst for me of like putting everything into stop and being like, well, these things I used to worry about don't actually matter in the face of something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, it really does. It like brings everything into really sharp focus, doesn't it? And all of a sudden, all this other peripheral stuff is truly just peripheral stuff, whether it's possessions, people, places you're going to, everything like this, almost like all priorities shift and all urgency changes as well. And like, and things and people become way more important as well. Like it shifts everything. And it's obviously, it's like, as you know, going through these things, not the funnest time, but when you get to that point where you can look back and just be so happy that yes, those people are gone, but my God, won't be so lucky to have them. Then you just reach this new plane of existence, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. And for people who don't know you, because you have so many businesses, how would you describe yourself to new people?
I'm a founder. A founder and a podcaster. I think I used to write. I used to be a journalist, like, well, say very, very part time, but I don't really write anymore. I can't be bothered. I prefer to speak, so that's why I switched
Fair enough.
to podcasting instead. But yeah, I'd say that's the best way to describe me. Oh, and also sometimes I take off my clothes for money as a lingerie model. So yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit on your Insta.
Seen the boobs, yeah.
So how, if someone's looking at your kind of career portfolio and they're like, oh wow, like, you know, she built up this business, she was going to sell it for 6 figures, she's got all these businesses on the go. How do you cope with doing all of those different things and being in charge of so many different businesses? Because you're a big time boss.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's been a lot of work, and it's been a lot of adjustment, and a lot of it was happening again while the craziest things in my life were happening. So I'll be honest, there's lots of things I don't really remember, because the thing with grief, it will wipe the slate clean. There are huge amounts of time I don't remember, and I'm like, oh, I did that? No idea. Just went through it on autopilot. But I think the main thing really is how I managed to manage, like I said, a portfolio of different brands, is having a really good team, really good staff, really good helpers, but also planning my time as well. I mean, coronavirus has really made me sort out my work-life balance, because it was shitty before. Whereas now I'm like, okay, cool. I know what I can achieve, and I know what I can achieve with help. So, and it's like having a really clear calendar. Yes, there are lots of things, but not everything happens at once. You can have everything you want, but not all at once. And also a thing that I've learned over the years is done is better than perfect as well. Just do it. Even if it's janky and shit, you've done it, and then you've learned. Because if you wait for it to be perfect, you'll be old and dead before you do it.
That's very true as well, with like, because I have a children's book out and I'm writing other books at the moment, and it is so like, but it's, oh, thanks. But it is so like, with stuff like books and creative things as well, whether it's setting up a company or, you know, writing a book or whatever it is, you could literally keep honing it and keep making it better forever. And I know with like new company ideas, I speak to a lot of people who are like, no, I'm not going to, you know, release the company website yet because it's not perfect, or I'm not going to launch the company until I've got all this sorted. And then sort of years go by and they never launch the company because everything's never sorted.
Yeah.
So how do you measure when it's done?
When you've got the idea in your head and you kind of understand how it's going to work, it's done. Like all the other stuff is just fluff, it's gravy, it's like, it's window dressing. So, you know, really, when it comes to things, I do have like some slightly unhealthy work practices still. So when I get an idea in my head, I can become so hyper focused on it. It's like to the point of mental issue, like kind of, I will be like, okay, that's it. And then I have fully, no word of a lie, just stayed up for like 36 hours pretty much, with really small bits of sleep in between. And in 36 hours, I've created a whole business, because I know it in my head. Once you know it if you know it in your head, you are ready to go. You just have to take the first step. And I've started things with, when I started Speak and Do, I started it with a Tumblr. I didn't have a proper website. I had a URL, like I said, for $11.99. I knew how to use Tumblr, and I created a holding page. And that was it. And then I went out and I had my pit, and I went out and I sorted myself out and got my clients and just cracked on. And then over time, I was able to add to it. So I think there are so many amazing companies that start with something so simple, like companies that I love, like Sugar Tits. I love them. They do amazing cakes. And they started off so simply. It's like Georgia and Delilah making really specific cakes that are pretty. And they did it for PR parties. And now it's like a monster. And it's amazing, and it's servicing the whole of the UK. So you can start off with something if your vision is clear in your head. That's all that matters. I think sometimes people can get lost when they start asking other people for their opinion, and sometimes yours is really the only one that matters.
That's, yeah, I'm so inspired. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go and make a business. But I'm the same when I get an idea. I'm just like obsessively,
Yeah,
I
eye
just
of
do
the
it.
tiger, right?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just like, go for like, because people say, when writing and stuff like that, people say, oh, do a bit of writing every day. But I can't do that because when I'm in it, I just write for like 8 hours
Yeah. How much is them? What's
straight.
the longest you've written for in a day?
I don't know. I mean, I normally wouldn't start in the morning because I'm not a good morning person. I sleep until like 11:30.
Yeah, it's a great
Um,
time.
well, no, between 10:30 and 11:30. We'll see.
Yeah.
My neighbours have been having building work, so I've been getting up much earlier than usual.
Yeah.
But normally I sort of potter around, do bits and bobs, and I'm good at writing in the afternoon and in the evening. But I definitely stayed up till like 3 o'clock in the morning writing, and then I realised the time. And I miss meals. My mum's like, "How do you do this?" I would never be able
Yeah.
to do that. But I'm just so
You're so
like
in it.
in it.
Yeah, it's like the work is feeding you.
Yeah. Although when I stop, I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so hungry, I might die." Like my stomach's eating itself. Um, so you mentioned, owning lots of businesses. The important thing is having a good team. So what do you think in a work environment, what do you think makes a good boss? And are you a good boss?
Oh, I think what makes a good boss, you know what, actually, what makes a good boss is knowing that you don't know everything and that you aren't the master of everything. You hire people for their expertise and then you have to let them get on with it. Because we're in places I've worked where people are maybe micromanaging, or they've hired people because they trust them, and then they act like they don't trust them. And so when I hire people, except for when I've hired some people that I hire based on more kind of, I suppose, culture as opposed to skill set sometimes, because I've hired people that it's like, I know they work hard, all this stuff is pretty transferable, I can train them on the job, that's cool. But then when you're hiring somebody to do something really specific and they know how to do it, just let them get on with it. And obviously check in, make sure you're managing it properly, and so you're getting what you want. But then that's I think what makes a good boss, is trusting people to just do what they're great at. And yeah, the team that I've got, when it's like I've hired so many people over the years, even in like senior roles at like director roles at jobs I had before I started my own company. And hiring is never ever easy. A lot of people say they can do stuff, and guess what? They can't. But that shows itself really quickly, luckily, and then you can course correct quite easily from there.
So do you think you're a good boss?
I think I think I have been. I think I have and I haven't been. It really, really depends. I think in previous roles when I've worked at other places, people have said, yeah, you're a great manager. And you could ask other people that work for me and they think I'm a rubbish manager. So I think it depends on where I've been, the atmosphere of where I worked, the job I'm working on. And even in my own company, I would say, so my staff would say sometimes yes and sometimes no. But then it was difficult because I know again, it depends what can happen in your life. I know that, for example, when I was going through everything, there were times when I was a really bad boss, but basically because emotionally I couldn't really work. So sometimes but they knew that. They were so good. They were literally the best, like supporting me and getting the company through me just kind of not really functioning properly. But then the good thing is I'm very open, and so are they. So sometimes they're like, no, you're being a dick. And I'm like, I swear I am. So it's like,
That's a nice relationship to have. I remember when I used to work like part-time in a shop, I definitely couldn't say you're being a dick to my boss then. I would have been fired.
Oh yeah, same. I think I've said that and then just got fired, to be fair.
So we've talked a bit about work, but what about your personal life? Because you said generally you think bossing it is being fearless. Do you think you're fearless in your personal life as well?
I think so. Like I suppose I'm really friendly and approachable. So I'm not afraid to go to things by myself and just start talking to strangers. And I love to compliment people in the street when they're dressed really nicely and stuff like that. So I think I am, to be fair. I just kind of get on with things. I think, yeah, I would say I am.
I love the complimenting people in the street. I've had it done to me and I've done it to other people. And it just makes you both feel amazing because that person you compliment is like, oh my God, like it cheers up their day.
Yeah.
And then you feel great because you've cheered up their day. I think we should all do it more.
We should do. It's like, oh my gosh, I was out in the last summer when in one of the, between the lockdowns, and I saw this woman, and truly, I cannot get the vision of her out of my head. She was so beautiful. She was pregnant and she was wearing this beautiful silk dress. And I was quite far away from her. And I was with my friend Hudson. And I was like, I need to go. I need to tell that woman she looks gorgeous. Anyway. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. So he just followed me. And then I was like, excuse me. And she looked at me like I was insane because we'd never seen each other before. And I was like, I just want to say that you just look so stunning. I saw you walk up the street and I just couldn't take my eyes off you. This color is for you. And her husband turned around and said, you know, she didn't want to wear this because she didn't think she looked nice. And then I was like, this is insane. You should wear this all the time. So I think it's kind
well, she is gonna now every day.
Yeah, she was stunning. And it's like, I think it's just if someone's dressed up nicely, I know people dress for themselves, but I don't think it hurts to tell people they look awesome.
Yeah, as long as you're not doing it in a creepy way, which it doesn't sound like you are.
Definitely. It's like, when guys say it, you're like, ew, go away. But
yeah, like there's a compliment and then there's
like, I'm all right.
Someone's commented, hi Samantha, I hope you're well. I am, thanks. A kind compliment can make a world of difference. So true. Yeah. I love it.
Absolutely.
And actually, Gabby Roslin sprung to mind when you were saying that, because I think one thing that she is, because I do her radio show, one thing she is great at is being really positive and complimenting the people she works with. And I remember when I first started working with her, and, you know, it's her radio show, so she was sort of my boss. It's a bit weird, isn't it, in creative environments? But she was in charge, and I was sort of coming in and just saying some, you know, trying to be funny on the radio. And I remember her just being really kind and, like, picking up on something I did and complimenting it.
Yeah.
And it can, especially, I think, when you're in positions of power, it can, as well as strangers in the street, but it can make a real difference to, you know, to not only your day, but like to the way you feel and your confidence in your job. And absolutely. I've always remembered that she was really lovely to me when I started out.
And I think, like you're saying, it makes a huge difference. And it's so easy to be nice. It's so easy to be kind. And it's like, it's so much more effort to be anything else other than kind, really. And it just doesn't hurt you. And why not tell someone they're doing a good job? It's like when we, you know, like if you're like customer service or whatever, when you go into shops or anything like that, they hear people will complain all the time, but no one ever says they're doing a good job. So that's another thing I do as well. It's like I really thank people for their service, and I message people and say thank you. I even messaged once because I had a really cool Uber driver, and I emailed Uber to say thank you. But then if you do that, there's a thing they have called the 6-star. And if you have a great driver, they give that driver gets money, and then they get some other perks, and they get put into a draw for a holiday. So I didn't know that until I emailed to say thank you to a driver.
Wow. Okay. Everyone, if you ever get on an Uber, you have to, and you have a good driver, not just randomly, you have to email and tell them, because they can get a holiday. That's exactly. So nice.
They get money. So yeah, which is cool.
It's true as well. Like I always now, I think it's a more recent thing, but I always, if someone does a really good job in like a shop or something, I always try and like go and tell the manager and be like, they were really great, because you can get such bad service that it's nice when you get good stuff. Exactly.
Yeah. That was like actually someone who's now a friend. She didn't make friends with me because of this, but from a PR company. And when I first met her, she was just so good. I messaged the person that owned the company, and I was just like, I just want to say that every interaction that I have with Aoife is like amazing. She's brilliant. And she didn't know until she left, and then someone mentioned it to her, so she worked there that entire time and never knew that I'd emailed and said that. But I was just like, you're just the best person to work with. And then now she's my friend, mainly because I just made her my friend, because I liked her so much. Like, she has no choice in the matter.
I like doing that with people as well. I'm just like, I like you. Let's be friends.
Exactly.
Lovely Katie, we're wonderful, says, oh, two amazing women together, love this. Katie from Kirby K is great.
She's one of those
and
people
someone
that I made my friend.
yeah, we love you. Also, we should compliment her. She did a bra fitting with me, and it was like the best bra fitting I've ever had in my life.
Same.
And I just, I felt amazing about my boobs afterwards. So, Katie,
it truly is life changing. Getting like a really good bra and then having and just like, and the way she's always like bigging you up and everything as well. You're like, yeah, these are the best tits you've ever seen.
Yeah, and you like walk out with like really with your boobs out,
exactly.
And you're like,
step out.
I ordered a cup of tea with like real boob emphasis afterwards.
Yeah, I go out. After that, I think I walked out the door boobs first. It was like that was how and also how I entered a room. So yeah.
Yeah, so there we go. At We're Wonderful, if you want to check her out on Twitter, we're complimenting you. Give your best. Says, someone stopped me the other day to say my coat was fabulous and it brightened their day. It's long and bright yellow and it really made me smile. That's lovely. Yeah, it is so nice. Although I always, when someone compliments me about my clothes, I always then do that thing of like, it's $4.99 from this place.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
If you go, there might be some left. Because you just want to share the joy. It's like, I enjoy wearing this and I want you to enjoy wearing it too.
It's funny because it's like you feel like you're a magazine and they're coming to you for information, but they're like, but if I compliment someone, you know, sometimes I see something and I'm like, oh, where did you get that? Because I love it.
Definitely do that, yeah.
But if I'm just complimenting you, like, I don't need to know where it's from because it just looks lovely on you, but I still do it the other way around. Anyway, have you ever had any amazing or awful bosses? You don't have to name and shame, but what made them particularly good or particularly bad?
Oh yeah, so I've had some really good bosses actually. I had a boss, Kieran. He was awesome. Like it was crazy, but we just got on so well, and it was ended up being like working with my brother. And he's brilliant. And even actually, I spoke to him last year, and I was like, "You're still one of my favorite bosses." But he was brilliant. What I liked with working about him, it's like he was really good at developing my talent at work. Kind of again, trusting me to do things, allowing me to kind of push the boundaries, learn more, while also being so funny. He was just hilarious. So every day we had, I would say we laughed for about an hour every day that we worked together. And that was what was awesome. I've had some other great bosses as well. But my friend Stephanie, actually, she was a great person to work for because she's just so fun and like really caring, really like forthright and straightforward. So you always knew where you stood. And just really good again with like kind of complimenting you and giving you praise, and that was really good because and also helping you where you are weaker as well without making you feel terrible. So that was good. Terrible bosses, I've had some of them. There was a woman I worked with called Nicola. I don't care about these people, and she was just terrible. She just hated me, and she was just always really weird with me, and I just didn't like her. And when the day that I was leaving, I don't eat chocolate. The day that I was leaving, they did, they kind of do like make a raise for you. They raise some money. She went out and someone else offered to get it because I got on with other people and they knew what I'd like. And she went out and bought chocolate, knowing I wouldn't eat it because she's a dick. But yeah, she was a bell end and I really don't like her. But I've had other people.
Did you smear it in her face, the chocolate? Like, I'm not going to eat it.
I was like, you know what, love? You enjoy your spiked chocolate. But
someone's just said Instapamdram says here for the tea.
Yeah.
Throwing some shade.
Exactly. I have had some problematic bosses, but also very much to do with like racism stuff as well, latent racism and that kind of thing. So there's definitely been some undertones of places that I've worked in and people that have just so it's difficult to navigate that because sometimes there have been places that I worked that have been really delightful, and then there may be someone in the senior team that's basically a little bit racist and they don't realise it. So that's been difficult. There was like, two people I worked with. I said their name on the podcast before. I won't bother saying it on here. There's no point. They already know how I feel about them. But yeah, they were racist.
And how do you navigate that? Because obviously, as a white woman, that's not something I've ever experienced. How do you navigate that in the workplace? Have you felt like in the past there haven't been the strategies or the support there for you to get help with those difficult situations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think really prior to June 2020, there hasn't really been an easy way to say these things. It's not easy now, but it's easier now because more people understand, and you can be really honest about your experiences in a different way now. Or I know that's still not the same for everyone, but there were times you just had to just take it. You just have to take it, and you have to just swallow it, and you have to just constantly modify your behavior, and you have to shrink yourself. And it's just to be honest, it's something I've had to do for so long, since I was a kid. It's just the reality of race, as it were, that I'm just so used to it now. It is what it is. And you have to find your joy and everything else sometimes just in other areas or other places, and compartmentalize a lot. So no, there hasn't always been an easy way to deal with it. And it's, it's been difficult. Like, actually, so to actually bring up there's one specific incident where I was having a really hard time. This is years and years ago, and my uncle was dying of cancer, and it was like maybe about 15 years ago now. And when I was working, I was having I was just exhausted. That was on my mind, and I was just having a really hard time. And then they were like, we were having a meeting about something, and I just got really upset, and I started crying, and they both looked at me and laughed, and then looked at each other, and they were like, we didn't expect you to start crying. And I was like, why wouldn't I be crying about someone that's dying? I don't understand. But it's because there is this kind of there was a thing where they expect Black women to be strong or behave a really specific way all the time, and then when you show your humanity, they can't deal with it, and they don't treat you accordingly. So then that is kind of almost like it's an unconscious bias that happens. And when that happened, I was like, I already knew they were a bit shitty anyway, because they were also incredibly xenophobic to my friend Nora, who's from Finland, and they used to be such dicks to her. And so I knew it was going to happen, and I expected it. But that moment in my head, they crossed the line. And then when they crossed that line, I was like, y'all are bitches. And then after that, I just wasn't very nice to them. I knew I was leaving anyway. I was getting ready to like change jobs. So after that, I was just a dick to them until I left. And where we used to work, we used to get press trips. And as I was leaving, because I used to run a particular part of the department, they were like, "Oh, make sure you share out the press trips." I didn't share them out. I went on a press trip every single weekend for 6 months until I left. And they thought,
I love this, like reverse abuse of power. It's like you were like, well,
exactly.
If you're gonna be racist, you're not gonna get a press trip.
Literally, if you're gonna be racist, you don't deserve them. So,
yeah. Agreed.
Exactly. I thought it was like reparations. That's what it was for me.
So are there any people you think are bossing it that you really like admire or look up to or take inspiration from?
Oh my gosh, so many. And you know what, you are one of them, because I've got, just looking at my shelf now, I can see my bookshelf, and on my bookshelf I've got a whole section. I don't really buy books, I'm more of an audiobook person, but all my hard book, all my like proper hard copies of books are all from my friends. And so many of my friends have written books, and I have them, and it's just like my friend Ginny Reddy has written a few books, my friend Porna, she's written a book, and I've got her pre-order coming soon. And it's like, you've got a book, for Guy's got a book. It's just like, there are so many, and it's just like, I love that this collection is going to get out of control soon. Like Eleanor Conway, she wrote Staunch. So just all these women I know that are just absolutely they're just killing it. But then killing it while still kind of being really like authentic and open. They're like, look, I'm having a bad day, I'm just not going to do anything today. Like, they're not trying to push themselves, they're not kind of like killing themselves for this weird hustle mentality. I feel like they're women that are doing things that they love, and they're doing them well. And I love to see it. I love to see them succeed. And it doesn't matter how many books any of you write, I will just buy them all. Even if I don't read them, my house will be filled with them. I love it. And I love having those physical representations of this stuff that they do. It makes me well happy.
That's so nice. And I can totally, on my bookshelf, I have books by my friends. And it is just so nice. You're like, I know that person. Exactly. And like, oh, I'm so proud of them.
And it's like every time, like when I was seeing you like a Magic Mike, I was like, yeah. Every time I get so excited, like I'm just as gassed as the first time I saw it. It's like I can't calm down. I'm too excited about it. So yeah, I love it.
That's such a nice way to be. Well, just to round off, this chat's been great, but just to round off, do you have like a 10-year boss plan? Like, where is you bossing it going to go in the future, or where would you like to go or focus on?
I think there's I'm kind of going through, like, looking at my companies and my portfolio and working stuff out at the moment, and I'm kind of getting to the point where a few things are going to be really self-sufficient soon. So in terms of, I'll just have someone running it and they just report bits and bobs to me, and I can kind of then focus on other things. So I think definitely I would have sold a few of my companies, rounded some of them off, because one of the things about the constantly trying things out and being fearless is that I like to try things out, see where they go, but I'm also happy if they end. Like, I'm not afraid of the end of them, or I'm happy for it to have an arc. So I think in the future, I think honestly I'll be kind of more in like events and food business, and I'll be really happy, and I'll have a yacht. That's right.
Sure.
I'll have a yacht, definitely some kind of large stately home, but I'll insist on living in London in a nice apartment, because countryside is a bit much for me.
I love that you just added in at the end, like a yacht and a large stately home, but also a London. That's what I dream of, like a London pad where you can just like stay if you've been on a night out, but then you have the big
I think it'll kind of be, definitely be like more city, and then every now and again I'll escape to the country, that's kind of thing. But yeah, I think, really, I think just in I don't know, 5-10 years, I kind of don't tend to really project that far into the future. I think one of the things with a lot of the stuff that's happened to me is that anything can happen at any point, and you just don't know. So now I'm very much like, well, what is happening now, and am I enjoying it now? Because I think if I focus too much on them, then I'm almost in a hamster wheel, and it's like, well, I'm not taking stock. I'm not enjoying now. So now I'm like, okay, cool. It'd be not in the future. I'd like lots of stuff that I would like to have at that time. That's my answer.
I like it. No, it's so true, because I think I always used to plan. And if anything, my career has gone in the weirdest directions. And I love that. Yeah. And it just seems to work. So now I'm like, let's go with the flow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yolanda, thank you so much. It's been so good to chat. Everyone should follow you, because you are a boss.
Thank you.
This will go on my Insta. If you just tuned in, you're like, oh my God, this is great, I want more. This will be on my Instagram TV and on YouTube as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Me.
See you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.